Interlude of Magic. So, I hear you're omnibenevolent, Jaden said, and God started to cackle. Catastrophe told you to say that, didn't he? Uh, yeah, he did. Why do you call gold catastrophe anyways? You'll know why when the time's right, Magic spoke cryptically. Their face lit up as they clapped their hands together. Time for you to learn magic. Okay, is there anything I should do, or... Hmm? Magic looked at the mortal. Not particularly. Magic suddenly had a pointer in their hand, and a board with a diagram of a human was behind them. Jaden frowned. He could have sworn those weren't there before. All humans have a little magic inside them. Most of this magic comes from their soul, and for the most part, humans don't know how to or don't have the ability to use this internal magic on command. And so, excess magic kind of gets released. There are some who are able to harness that internal magic, but they lack the ability to use external magic, which comes from the earth, by the way. And there are those who are the inverse from the first. They can't use internal magic, but they can use external. I shall teach you how to use both, Magic said. Jaden mentally took note of what they said and nodded slowly. Okay, so how do I start? Jaden asked. Magic held up a glass of water with a straw and held it out to Jaden. Drink and listen, Magic said. Jaden took the glass and started to drink from the glass slowly. Your magic is unique and much more expansive than an ordinary human's magical range, mostly due to your father's side. Magic made a circle with her finger, and a small blue-white cylinder rose out from nothing. Magic opened the scroll and let one end float in the air and held the other in their hand. Tossed the scroll up once before whipping it through the air. There was a noticeable cracking sound that resonated through the air as the other side of the scroll flew. Magic crossed their arms and reclined in the air, as both they and Jaden watched the scroll fly through the air, slowly disappearing in the horizon. Yeah, that's gonna go on for a while, Magic said, after narrowing their eyes. They grabbed the other half of the scroll and held it towards Jaden. Anyways, this is all the magic humans can learn in this universe. It's a lot. Jaden looked at the scroll's contents, to only see they were written in possibly the smallest font in existence, as well as being in a language he couldn't read. Magic tapped Jaden's forehead and pulled out a lime green scroll, roughly the same size as the first. They held it up in front of the mortal. And this contains all the magic you can possibly learn. Magic then did the exact same thing they did with the first scroll. They threw one half and let the other half remain by the pair. You can't quite see, but your scroll is much longer than the other. Jaden glanced over at the contents of the scroll and grimaced. That's a lot of magic. Yep. So, you're gonna teach me all of this? Jaden said, holding up the scroll. The first inch of paper had over 100 different spells listed, and the scroll was much longer than that. No, that would take way too much time. However, you'll probably learn a decent amount of this, Magic said. They waved their hand, and both scrolls disappeared. The pointer reappeared in their hands. As they pointed to the board, this time there was a different diagram. There are 4 images on each corner of the board: a rock, fire, water, and a lightning bolt. Keep drinking while I speak, Magic said, pointing at the glass in Jaden's hand. Jaden looked down at the glass and noticed that the liquid hadn't gone down in the slightest. Odd. Ahem. The magic in this universe is complicated and can be extremely technical. Luckily for you, I'm not a magic theory professor, so I won't bore you with all the technical stuff. The most basic form of magic is elemental magic. Elemental magic can be broken down into 4 main parts: earth, water, fire or air, and finally energy. These 4 elements also reflect the 4 states of matter: earth for solids, water for liquids, air or fire for gases, and energy for plasma. Jaden stopped drinking as he had a question. You said there are 4 types of elemental magic, and you listed 5, Jaden said. Magic raised an eyebrow. Did I say you could stop drinking? Magic asked. Jaden rolled his eyes and put the straw back in his mouth and continued to drink from the glass. To answer your question, fire and air act the same when it comes to magic, so they're often grouped together. Anyways, these 4 elements are basically the foundation for every spell that exists. We shall begin with the basics and move from there, Magic said. They placed the pointer down on the board, and Jaden watched as the board and pointer vanished instantly. Now, you might be wondering as to how you're going to start. After all, you've never used magic before, and have no idea how to activate your dormant magic. Well, don't worry, because I got you covered. And by that, I mean I've been making you do it the entire time. Magic said, making finger guns at Jaden. The mortal raised an eyebrow at Magic, waiting for them to elaborate. Magic noticed the human waiting and sighed. So, I was having you drink something the entire time, but I never said what, or even if you were drinking something in the first place. And on that note, what are you doing with your hand? You're cupping nothing. Jaden frowned, as there should be a glass in his hand, but as Jaden flexed his fingers, he noticed that there was nothing in his hand. Jaden looked down to see the straw he was drinking from was through his hoodie and connected to something. Jaden pawed at the area and froze. He reached under his hoodie and pulled out the corrupted core, which had the straw attached to it. Jaden pulled the straw off the core and looked at Magic. God was staring back with a look that can only be called devilish. This? Jaden said, pulling off the corrupted core. You can't be serious. Magic looked at Jaden with an easy smile. Of course I am, Magic said. They lightly flicked their finger inward, and the corrupted cord detached itself from Jaden's chain and floated over to Magic. God grabbed the core and rotated it in the air. I know about this core, its functions, its strengths and weaknesses. I know about the voices of those ancient chaotices. I also know what this core means to you, and what you mean to it. I also know how to get those voices to silence. Jaden focused on that part. How? There are 2 ways. I'm sure you're aware of the purification for the corrupted core? Partially. Why? Eh, no reason for now, Magic said, shrugging the shoulders. But that's of no concern or use right now. The other method to get those voices to silence has to do with how the core was created in the first place. Jin had a decent memory as to how the core was created. I am aware of how the core was created, Jin said. How much? The corrupted cores were all created by the gods when they wiped out the first iteration of chaotices. They took their hearts and fused them into what became the corrupted core. Geoth used the first iteration of green chaotices for the green's corrupted core, and the other chaos gods did the same for their respective elements, Jaden said, and Magic smiled. You certainly know a lot then, Magic said. But do you know how the gods did it? Jaden thought about it, but shook his head no. The cores were fused using magic and then refined via non-magical methods, which is partially why the core rejects foreign magic so violently. It's actually a good defense system. Well, if you can tolerate the pain, that is. Then again, the voices might be able to change that. I digress, this part's actually important. The second generation, the current generation of Chaosises, were based on the first generation, and the first generation was based off of humans. And by based off of, I mean they were basically copied 1 for 1 off of humans. Okay, but what does this have to do with anything? It means the core generates its own magic, just like an ordinary human. Except there's way more magical generation than what a singular human can generate. Also, the magic it generates is extremely similar to the magic a human would generate. In other words, this is one of the most powerful magical batteries in the universe. But how does that help with silencing them? Well, you use the battery. It won't cause harm to the voices if you care about that, but it will exhaust them and make them too tired to speak. So, how will I do that? Jaden asked. Magic turned over the corrupted core once more before throwing it to Jaden. You've been practicing this entire time. Drink, Magic said. Jaden held the core in his hand and tried to do what Magic told him, but he couldn't. I don't know how to do that. Not everything about magic is physical. Sometimes you just have to believe, Magic said. Well, right now, believing isn't really working, Jaden retorted. Magic rubbed at their chin and reclined in the air. Maybe holding the core is the current issue. Place the core in your chest and try again. The last time I did that, it hurt a lot. Wait, why am I telling you this? Shouldn't you be omniscient? It's complicated. Thankfully, not really. But back to the actual topic. Place the core in your chest. Your body's already used to the changes the core will have on your body. This won't hurt again, will it? Jin asked. Magic shrugged, and Jaden sighed. Jaden reached under her shirt and aligned the corrupted core with a divot in his chest. Jaden closed his eyes and inhaled through his nose and pressed the core into his chest. He waited for a second for something to happen, but there was nothing. Not even the voices were shouting in his head. Although there was now a faint sound of wind rushing through his ears. Now what? Jaden asked after opening his eyes. How do you feel? Magic asked. Normal, I guess, Jaden said, shrugging his shoulders. Magic tilted their head in confusion. Normal? You don't feel some rush of energy, no immediate increase in strength? Nothing at all? Magic questioned. Jaden shook his head. Nope, Jaden affirmed, but Magic frowned. Odd. Your magical energy seems to be active. Magic floated over to Jaden and started to mess with his body. Are you hearing anything? Not really, unless the faint wind I'm hearing is in my head, Jaden said. As soon as Jaden spoke, Magic breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, thank me, Magic said. Good news, I guess. The voices of corruption don't see me or this place as a threat, or they're too scared. Is that really a good thing? Probably, Magic said while shrugging their shoulders. It'll make it a lot easier for me to teach you without their constant noise. Magic clapped their hands loudly. Anyways, let's begin with the basics. Activate your magic. Jane closed his eyes and tried to do what he did before, but he didn't feel much difference, except his eyes started to hurt, and the faint whispers of the voices vanished. Jane rubbed his eyes and opened them to stare at Magic. I still feel nothing, Jaden said to Magic. He had to squint a little as the light in the area was suddenly too bright. Nothing? Magic questioned, looking down at electric green eyes. Your eyes hurt, don't they? Photosensitivity? From where I am, it doesn't seem like nothing. What is that supposed to mean? Take a look for yourself, Magic said, floating to Jaden's left. Where Magic was before, a full-body mirror appeared. Jaden looked into the mirror before fixating on his eyes. His eyes were a sharp, electric green color. Magic slowly floated over to Jaden, their electric blue eyes staring at Jaden's green. They gently elbowed Jaden's side with an ecstatic grin on their face. Congrats, kid. You learned to do what most people can't. Now what? Jaden said, still staring at his reflection. Now, the fun part begins, Magic said with a wild look. You should feel some kind of buzzing sensation through your body. I don't feel anything different, Jin interrupted, turning to face God. Really? Not even an increase in your energy? Magic asked, and Jane shrugged his shoulders. Nope, he responded. Magic frowned and started to prod at Jaden's body. Odd. Your body's magic is active. Everything seems to be in order. Magic hummed to themselves. To use magic in this universe, the caster requires two things: knowledge and a will. What does that mean exactly? Jaden asked. Magic snapped their head towards the mortal. They probably didn't mean to say that out loud. Electric blue eyes stared wordlessly at Jaden. I don't think I've actually asked you this before, but why are you here? Magic asked. Jaden raised an eyebrow in confusion. Uh, Gold brought me here? Why did Gold bring you here? Because the Children of Time said to? And you went along with it? I guess so, yeah. Why? Magic asked. Jaden opened his mouth to respond again, but he drew a blank. I don't know. I know, Magic said forlornly. I know why you're here. Jaden turned to glare at God. If you know, why don't you tell me? Jaden hissed. Magic let out a sad sigh. If I were to tell you, you won't have learned for yourself. You won't learn your purpose. Magic placed a hand on Jaden's head. I'll leave you alone to think about it. You can call me over when you're ready. Magic took a step back from Jaden and vanished in a flash of blue light. Why was he here? Jaden thought to himself. He sat down in the sand and thought to himself. He couldn't come up with an immediate answer, so he thought back to how he got here. Gold brought him here after the children told him to. The children more or less dragged Jaden and Gold into the Temple of Time. Before that, Auntie and Gold fought, but Jaden was frozen in place. And what started all of this was when he helped Gold. Why, though? Why did he help Gold? The memory of when he interacted with Geoth 11 years ago flickered in his mind. The divine didn't affect him. It didn't bother him the slightest. The difference between the divine and mortal was non-existent in his mind. But more importantly, why does he care about that more than himself? Why is it so difficult for him to think about himself right now? Jaden let out a cry of frustration. He sighed to himself. There's no reason for him to get frustrated over this. It would be a waste of energy. There were many questions running rampant through Jaden's mind, but they all had one thing in common. They all started with why. Jaden tried to work out answers to each question that came up, but they all had the same answer in the end. Or, rather, they all lacked an ending answer. Jaden didn't know why he was here. He didn't know why he was doing what he was. 9 years ago. It was a beautiful day, despite the fact that it was spring. The warmth outside made it feel like the perfect summer day. There wasn't a cloud in sight to even hint at the possibility of rain. It was a wonderful day, all while 10-year-old Jaden looked down at a slab of rock. Here lies Haley Amber Rose, beloved wife, mother, and sister. 1972 to 2014. The stone read. Jaden had long since emptied his eyes of tears, and now he was just tired. A mocha-colored hand placed itself heavily onto Jaden's shoulder. The same exhaustion that was present in Jaden was also present in his uncle. Why? Jaden muttered. He heard Marcus sigh. I don't know, kid, his uncle said. Maybe there is no reason. Maybe there is. Jaden didn't know how to respond to that. Maybe Marcus had a point. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe there wasn't. Perhaps there was meaning in the meaningless. Or maybe there is no meaning to the meaningless. And maybe that would be its meaning. Or maybe Jaden was overthinking something that was quite straightforward. Maybe there was no reason as to why a drunk driver killed his mom. Maybe it just happened, just because it did. Maybe there was no definite reason as to the why or how of the matter. Maybe that was okay, and maybe he should just accept that fact. I want to leave now, Jaden muttered. Alright, let's go, Marcus said, leading the boy away from the grave. Present day. Jaden rubbed the bridge of his nose. Maybe he couldn't figure out why he was here. Maybe that would be okay. He could probably ask Magic as to why he was here anyways. They were God. Surely they could tell him, or at least give him a hint. Jaden stood up and looked around for Magic, but he quickly found that they weren't in the area. The hybrid opened his mouth to call for Magic, but he stopped when he sensed a presence from behind. Do you know why you're here? Magic said from behind. Jin didn't jump, but he did whip his head around to face Magic. Jin sighed and slumped his shoulders. Not really, no. Could you tell me or give me some kind of hint? Jaden asked. Magic tilted their head, not out of confusion, but curiosity. Truly, you don't have any idea? Magic questioned. Jaden shook his head. The mortal expected to hear some kind of sigh or words of disappointment from Magic, but all he saw was a growing smile. Electric blue eyes and an eerie smile. It was a somewhat twisted smile, in the same way a cosmic horror would smile. Practically all teeth and no kindness. I could tell you, Magic said, softening their smile to the point of just their lips being slightly upturned, which only made the creep factor much higher. But would you accept the answer? Jaden blinked. What do you mean? The mortal asked. I could tell you, but you might not like the answer, Magic said. Jaden's eyes flickered downward for a moment, as he thought about that for a brief moment. But then again, he already made up his mind. I want to know, Jaden said. Regardless if I like it or not, it is still the reason I'm here. Magic tilted their head at that, and he gave Jaden an easy smile. They reclined in the air and floated above Jaden. You are a tool, Magic said, putting their hands behind their head and lying back in the air. A tool for the divine. Jaden let Magic's words sink in before coming up with another question, because he hoped that didn't mean exactly what it meant. What does that mean exactly? Jaden asked. Magic curved themselves to face Jaden upside down. It's exactly what you think it means. You're the person the gods can use however they see fit. Well, there are some things they can't do to you, but whatever, Magic said, waving their hand at the last part. You're meant to act on the will of the divine in the mortal realm. The divine has been pretty hands off for the past 4,000 years, give or take a few centuries. So, if a god wanted to enact their will on the mortal realm, you would be the person they go to. So, I'm just a tool. Eh, on paper, yes. For the most part, the gods probably don't care much for the mortal realm nowadays. In truth, your role is more of an honorary thing. You probably won't be asked to do anything. Well, unless you ask first. Magic let out a sigh, and their smile disappeared completely. In truth, you probably have the most freedom out of everyone in this universe. You can do whatever it is you like, and stop at any time. Magic's tone was softer, sadder than normal. But enough of that, they said, sounding much more alive. Do you understand your purpose now? Jaden nodded. Do you accept it, though? Magic asked, their voice a little more somber. Jaden hesitated, before nodding again. Alright then. Let's try it again. Wait, Jaden said to Magic. Is there something you would like? There was a distant look on Magic's face, and they placed a hand on Jaden's head. That would be a nice thought, Magic said. That was vaguely ominous. Anyways, Magic, they announced. Magic flicked their hand up, and suddenly the corrupted core was in their hand. I was doing some thinking, and I realized that you should probably work on your internal magic, rather than solely rely on the core. Magic let the corrupted core float above their hand. Remember when I had you drink from the core to help you practice using magic from outside sources? Well, you're gonna have to throw that away for now, because using your internal magic is different from using external sources of magic. Uh-huh, Jan said slowly. Could you slow down a bit? I can only keep up for so long. Magic took a deep breath in and slowly let it out. Okay, what you were doing before was draining the magic out of something else and using it to boost your own magical supply and power. Got it? Magic said, and Jaden nodded. Good. So, draining the magic out of another person or object is much more different than utilizing your own internal supply. Instead of a pulling feeling, it's much more like flipping a switch, Magic said, waiting for Jaden to respond. Okay, so what do I do exactly? The mortal said. Magic floated to the ground and placed a hand over Jaden's heart. The soul is the source of mortal magic, Magic said. As I said before, most mortals don't know how to use its magic at will. It gets released, but not really controlled. You know your purpose, even if it doesn't mean much. Magic put a finger on their cheek. Sit, they said. Jaden frowned, but sat down anyways. Close your eyes and breathe slowly. Let yourself feel at peace. Jaden did what Magic asked, closed his eyes and started to breathe in slowly. Your magic will come from within. Relax and let your mind drift into nothing. Jaden let himself relax and mentally drifted into darkness. Magic floated down to the ground and drew random shapes in the sand. I said this would be like flipping a switch, but first, you need to find that switch. Magic sensed Jaden start to stir. Don't do anything. Just relax. Let your mind drift. Let all your thoughts float away. Jaden felt himself relax and mentally float away. Maybe he relaxed a little too much because he felt himself start to fall. Let yourself fall. Magic's voice echoed throughout Jaden's mind. It didn't sound like those words came out from Magic's mouth. The mortal listened to Magic's voice and continued to let himself fall into the darkness. He continued to fall until he felt his mind stop falling. Or, at least he thinks he stopped. Jaden still felt a falling sensation, but he wasn't sure if he was still moving or not. Relax, and keep yourself where you are. Jaden felt 3 fingertips on his forehead. He was about to open his eyes when he heard, Take a deep breath and breathe. Magic's voice resonated once more. Jaden took a shuddering breath in and then slowly released it. As he exhaled, Jaden felt the world fade away. The sandy ground he was lying on disappeared, and the feeling of Magic's fingers on his forehead vanished as well. Jaden's eyes opened, and he saw that he was somewhere else. A space-like void surrounded him, filled with thousands of small, colorful dots. In front of Jaden was a black metallic gate with chains around the metal, and past the gate was a giant, glowing, cyan-colored version of himself, floating in the fetal position. There were 2 massive stone pillars beside the gates, and on top of the pillars 2 creatures sat like gargoyles. On the top of the left pillar, a massive cyan bird sat. On the right pillar, a cyan dragon was perched. Both the dragon and bird were about equal in terms of height, and both were staring down at Jaden, somehow giving the mortal a look of disdain and contempt. Jaden made eye contact with both creatures, and the two let out a cry of anger. Jaden took a step back. Magic? Jaden cried out into the abyss. Where am I? Do you not recognize this place? Magic's voice resonated around Jaden. To the mortal's left, he sensed something. He turned and saw the tail end of something dipping below the surface of wherever he was, leaving behind a ripple from the disruption of the surface. I don't. Where are you? Jaden answered, turning around in an attempt to find Magic. He stopped when he saw a snake-like body moving, coming up from one side of the surface, arcing in the air, and disappearing below another side. Do you not recognize them? Magic's voice was suddenly much closer and more demanding. Jaden's body snapped around to face the gate once more. He looked at the dragon and bird. No? Why would I Jaden's sentence was cut off, as for a brief moment, both the dragon and bird looked like him. Where am I, Magic? Where do you think? Magic's demand echoed from behind the mortal. Jaden turned around to see nothing. But when he faced the gate once more, Magic stood, with an electric blue aura surrounding their body. Their sclera was pure black, making their irises pop out, burning with the same electric blue color that surrounded them. This is my mind, isn't it? Jin said, and Magic tilted their head. We're a little deeper than that, but you're close enough. If this is my mind, then they, Jaden said, gesturing to the two creatures. They are me? Like I said before, we're a little deeper than that, but you're close enough. Jaden turned to look at Magic. He opened his mouth to ask his next question, only to be cut off by a growl from both the dragon and bird. Clearly, they are the more honest versions of you. How are they more honest than me? They are you. They are guarding you from your magic, for a good reason. Why? Why? Magic is a choice, not a responsibility, nor is it a destiny. I don't understand. Magic, help me understand. What are you talking about? Jaden begged. Magic's sclera shifted from black to white as they tilted their head in pity. Fate and destiny are the greatest lies people tell themselves and others. Fate can only exist if there is no free will. The Greek gods know fate all too well. So do the Aesir. They are slaves to it. They bow down to whatever claims to know their fates. In a self-fulfilling prophecy, they spells out their own doom. As Magic spoke, their tone got more angry, and the aura that surrounded them got brighter. Magic stopped and took a deep breath in. Their glow dimmed down back to what it was before. Magic stared at Jaden with a distant look. Fate can only exist when you don't exert your will onto the world. There is no such thing as destiny predetermined for any one person. Don't be a fool and believe in that. Otherwise, you'll just become a glorified puppet for someone else. I don't want to see another person become a tool for someone else and lose that ability to be your own person. Please, Jaden, don't be a slave to fate. Jaden stared at Magic. He didn't know what he really wanted. Maybe that's why he's here. Maybe he should try to figure it out. I don't know what I want, Jaden spoke slowly, carefully picking each word that came out of his mouth. But I'm willing to try and figure it out. Magic let out a hum before stepping to Jaden's side. Jaden felt a hand on his back, gently guiding him forward. Jaden glanced over at Magic, and Magic tilted their head towards the gate. Taking the hint, Jaden walked towards the gates. The dragon and bird leapt from their places on the gates. Jaden froze, waiting for the two creatures to do something. The two creatures crept forward. Jaden took a step back and closed his eyes, waiting to be attacked, only to feel nothing. Jaden opened an eye to see both the dragon and bird with their heads bowed down. Jaden continued moving until he reached the gates. He wrapped his hands around the bars of the gate before turning towards Magic. So, I just opened the gates? Jaden asked, staring at Magic to give him an answer. Magic didn't say anything. All they did was gesture towards the gates. Jaden pulled open the gates, and he started to feel something. Jaden felt a buzzing sensation through his fingers and toes, although he wasn't sure if it was coming from himself or if it had something to do with the cyan version of himself, still in the fetal position. As Jaden got closer, the buzzing sensation grew stronger until he reached his cyan-colored self. Jaden reached out and touched his cyan-colored leg. Suddenly, his cyan-colored self opened their eyes, and a blinding light emanated from the cyan body. Jaden shielded his eyes as his vision was flooded with cyan. Jaden opened his eyes in a jolt, and was in immediate discomfort, bordering on pain. Have you ever had that feeling of numbness in a limb, and all you can really feel is warmth? Now mix that with a feeling of pins and needles, and that's what Jaden was feeling throughout his entire body. Jaden heard something shifting in the sand, and Magic's face popped into his view. Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to open your gate, right? Accidentally flooded your body with too much magic. Same as us, and that squirrel over there. Magic pointed over to the other side of Jaden's body. Jaden's eyes shifted over to where Magic was pointing, and sure enough, there was a squirrel. An abnormally large red squirrel running around in circles, probably confused. I should probably let him go back to scurrying up and down that tree. Magic's finger flicked up, and a glowing white-yellow tree branch rose from the ground, and the squirrel immediately latched onto the branch, taking the color of the branch before running down and vanishing before it touched the ground. Bye, Ratatosker, Magic called out, before glancing down at Jaden. Oh, right, I should probably help you with that. Magic sat down on their knees. What you're going to do is close the gate you opened. Magic is a lot of things, and for now we're going to focus on the physical and mental aspects of magic. You know what your gate looks like. Now imagine closing that gate. Close your eyes and breathe in. Focus on the gates. When you breathe out, think of closing that gate. Jaden did what Magic asked and closed his eyes. He breathed in, conjuring a mental image of the gate in his head, with the gate open. Slowly, Jaden breathed out and imagined the gate closing along with his breath. The buzzing and numbness he felt slowly ebbed away until he felt normal again. Jaden opened his eyes and sat up. That was intense, he said, squeezing his left hand, half expecting a lingering tingling sensation. Yeah, that might be a little bit of my own fault. Typically, you're supposed to ease yourself into activating your magic, but I kinda just let you drop into the deep end, Magic admitted, rubbing the back of their head. I should let you sleep. You're probably tired from what you've done today, Magic said, before standing up. Jaden was about to protest before feeling a wave of exhaustion hit him. Where will I sleep? Jaden asked. Here, Magic said, gesturing to a rather comfortable sleeping bag on the ground. Night, Dynasty, Magic said, before vanishing into nothing. Jaden frowned at the name as he watched the sky shift to black and thousands of stars made their appearance.